Have you ever wanted to quit guitar? Well, if guitar is your main hobby, a passion of yours, and you're thinking about quitting, I'm hoping that this video is helpful for you. I'm making this because one of my community members recently sent me a message basically explaining why she's thinking about quitting guitar. We're going to read the exact message in a bit, and you'll see some important things about the way she's speaking and what that really means about her and her guitar playing. But interestingly enough, the night before she sent me this message, I was live in my community and a couple of people were hanging out and they were specifically speaking about all the times they have quit or almost quit guitar. So before we even get into the message and understanding the things here, before we get into all of the tips and all of that stuff, let me just say that I have also almost quit guitar many times over my 20 plus years of playing. And just about every player who I know who's very passionate about the instrument has contemplating quitting at some point. So, first, just understand you're not alone and there's nothing wrong with this feeling. But we'll get into that a bit more in a moment. Let's just first start by reading this message. I did, of course, block out her name and some other information that she put in the post that would kind of potentially identify her. So I did that, but let's just look at what she's saying here. So the message starts: hate to be annoying, but I think after this month is up, I'm kind of done. I don't know if this is the place for me. Everyone is so dedicated here and friendly, but I'm quite literally always in a rut, always needing help, and just feeling like maybe this isn't achievable. Not trying to be a basket case or anything, but feeling frustrated with my life in general because I have other responsibilities that weigh heavily on me. I won't get into my business, but just know I'm under immense pressure on a daily to help certain members of my family. Not to mention, I was an idiot and hurt myself the other day. So I tried to use guitar to alleviate some of that stress and anxiety and have time to do so for myself. But even that is starting to feel distressing. So I want to really break down this message a few different times because the way someone speaks about what they're going through tells you a lot about some other things about them as a person. And as a teacher, it's really important to be able to understand what's at the heart of your students' concerns or issues or difficulties. And so if we go back, the first thing she says is, I hate to be annoying. Before talking about how she's feeling or about the struggles that she's having and why she might want to quit, the first thing she says is, I hate to be annoying. And when someone starts talking to you that way, it's very clear that this is a person who probably doesn't take enough time for themselves in life. Because even before they can say what they're going through, they're already saying, I'm hoping that I'm not being a burden to this person. And that's probably how they go throughout their entire life. So this is a person who is probably very giving, who's probably not used to having people around them support them as much as they might need at times. And the next little bit kind of confirms that. So I don't know if this is the place for me. Everyone is dedicated and friendly, and I'm quite literally always in a rut, always needing help, and just feeling like maybe this isn't achievable. So, this person who feels like they're often a burden or that they don't want to be a burden, they see everyone around them and think to themselves, well, everyone else is happy, everyone else is dedicated, and I'm not that person. I'm a burden. I'm not able to keep up with this level of whatever, you know? And then the next part is really important. We're going to talk about that next part a bit more later, but we'll just read it again. Not trying to be a basket case or anything. Again, this whole like, I don't want to be annoying. Just feeling frustrated with my life in general because I have other responsibilities that weigh heavily on me. I'm under immense pressure to help family members. And, you know, I play guitar to alleviate some of the stress and anxiety I have in my life, but this is starting to feel distressing as well. And it's really interesting because when Well, let me just say this. And guys, I'm not a psychologist. I just care about people. And I've had a lot of students in many settings. So I recognize some of these patterns. Not to mention, I've also dealt with this myself a lot internally with therapists, professionals, all of that stuff. So I understand a lot about what's happening here. But what I often notice is when people feel overwhelming stress, there's one of two reactions that are very common. The first reaction is to kind of run away from the situation completely and to just go more into doing things for yourself. So you're feeling a lot of stress. So you remove yourself from that stress and spend more time taking care of yourself. That's one reaction. The other reaction is to get rid of all of the things that you do for yourself so you can dive deeper into the stressful situation and try to resolve that. And the person who says to them, the person who starts their message by saying, I hope I'm not being a burden, is also the person who's going to say to themselves, let me not take care of what I need. Instead, let me abandon my passion, my hobby, my form of stress relief, and just go deeper into helping other situations that are outside of me. See that this type of thinking is all linked together. And then she says, so I think you're a great teacher. I just wish I was a great student with a great non-stressful life. Sorry for the book. Again, another apology. I just thought I'd say that because you're the teacher, so you should know if one of your students is seriously contemplating dropping out. I know it's totally unprofessional. I apologize for that again. Several more apologies. And no, I don't want or need anything. I just needed to vent because I really love this instrument, but life is crazy. You're awesome. Program is great, etc. So this is also very common, this next part. And I did this myself when I was also thinking about quitting guitar. We often look at, if we're lucky enough to have a good teacher or a teacher we consider to be good, as students, we can then start to feel like we are not living up to the opportunity that we have with a teacher. And again, the type of person who is giving, who wants to give them all to something, be it solving a problem or fulfilling uh, a goal based on, perceived things that the teacher is giving them. This is also the same person who will feel guilty if they don't feel like they are living up to the standard of a teacher or of anybody else. So I won't continue to just go through and kind of analyze this message because honestly, the message itself is just one of many examples of many reasons why someone might consider quitting guitar. But within that message, there are so many different things and so many different potential ways that we can address this. So I'm going to do my best to continue to do so. Um, yeah, so let's begin. Before we do, actually, I set up a little Bonnie Tyler cam. Bonnie Tyler is my cat, and she has just returned to the windowsill. So there's the Bonnie cam, and let's just continue with this. Maybe we'll just leave her up. I feel like she's a nice soothing presence in the video. The first thing I want to go back to is what I said a little bit earlier. And again, this is what I was talking to when I was live with a couple of my other members of the community. And I really believe that if you love something, it's very common that you will want to quit that thing. I don't mean just with guitar, but of course, we're talking about guitar. And I believe this is the case because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is actually indifference. When you hate something, there's a very well, hate is a very strange emotion because it's always connected back to something that we don't initially think it's connected to. And if you want to quit guitar and you don't love it, it won't be difficult to stop. There will be no tension. There will be no back and forth. You just won't care and you won't do it anymore. And so if you're thinking about quitting, that's the first thing to understand. If you're thinking about quitting and you're looking for a YouTube video in this case to find a reason why you shouldn't quit, that alone should tell you that there is more to what's happening than just you being frustrated with the instrument. There's more to it than you just not enjoying it. Because again, when we are willing to quit something and there is no tension, when we are willing to quit something and we feel like it's going to be a relief instead of more stress, when there's no heartache attached to it, then that thing really wasn't meant for you. At least that's the way I look at the world in a lot of different things. Quick example, because everything in life is a relationship and you have a relationship with the guitar. If you've ever been in a romantic relationship and you have broken up with a person, you will know that there are many different types of breakups. There are some breakups that are extremely painful. And there are honestly, maybe you never went through this, but I have. There are breakups where both people are just like, yeah, it's not working. All right, yeah, let's move on. And there's no tension. There's no big heartbreak. It's just like, oh yeah, that was fun, but yeah, it's not working. And that's a really good example of a relationship that just didn't have love. It had intrigue, it had maybe lust, it had interest, but the love wasn't there. So again, if you want to quit guitar and you're feeling distress about it, and you're feeling this back and forth and it's kind of weighing heavily on you, that is the first sign that you should definitely not quit. Okay. So hopefully we're already now at least on the same page about the guitar at least matters to you a lot. So the next thing I want to talk about is this idea of being too busy. Because the anonymous student mentioned several times having life stressors and it weighing heavily and not having time and all of these different things that, we tell ourselves about anything, hobby, relationship, whatever. I really believe that if there's something important to you in your life and you're extremely busy, that is the time that you need that thing the most, especially if it's a relief. And there's two angles to that. The first angle is that as we get more busy and we get more stressed out, again, a lot of people, instead of taking more time for themselves or taking any time for themselves, a lot of people, we go towards the thing that is causing the stress because we want to spend all of our time trying to solve it, trying to relieve it, trying to make it better. And so we say to ourselves, well, what are the things I can cut out of my life right now so that I can have more time to solve this potential problem? But this starts a really negative cycle. And I know because not only have I been here many times, not recently with guitar, but I've been here with many, many things. It starts this cycle of not taking care of your own needs. And I know it's easy to dismiss guitar as not one of your needs. Oh, I'm not making any money with it. I'm not some great guitar player. I'm not making all this great progress. I don't have a reason to hold on to it. It's just a little thing that I do. And so you take that hobby and you dismiss it because it doesn't have anything that is productive about it. But the fact that it's something that you have for yourself that you can go to and do without anything attached to it. We'll talk more about attachment later, but let's just continue. The fact that it's that thing for you that doesn't necessarily matter that doesn't have income attached to it or taking care of someone else attached to it, that's the reason that it needs to be part of your life still. Because without that thing, then your life just becomes taking care of problems or taking care of other people or dealing with stressful situations. And without that other thing, without that release, without that moment for yourself, even if it's 15 minutes a day, guys, I talk about this all the time, 15 minutes, 5 or 6 days a week. That's enough to make progress. If you're making progress, you're going to be happy. It's really that simple. But if you remove that 15 minutes for yourself, everything eventually spirals into the abyss. Because then there's almost nothing to look forward to. There's nothing to relieve what's going on. And everything actually becomes harder as a result, not easier. And again, there's an illusion that removing this task is going to make things easier, but I'll explain shortly why that's not the case. But here's the other side. I mentioned that there's two sides of this idea of quitting and things becoming better when you quit because you have more time. The truth of the matter is, and this student is younger than I am, but I know this because I've been alive for a certain amount of years now, and I've talked to people who are also much older than me. I tend to be an old soul, so I like the company of older people. But what I've learned and what I've been told by older people as well is that this never goes away. This idea of not having enough time doesn't ever really go away in your life as an adult. You know, if you're lucky enough to have a very calm and peaceful retirement, which most people our age probably, well, we won't get into that, but if you're lucky enough to have a calm, peaceful retirement, I'm thinking of my grandmother right now. Even she still feels like she doesn't have enough time in the day. A lot of times. So the thought that in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the thought that there's going to be this magical time when you have the time to practice, it just never comes. It just never comes. And so what we have to do is when we are going through a situation where we are extra stressful, when we have even less time, that is the opportunity for us to think to ourselves, okay, how can I make this work now? How can I find a little bit more time in my life so that I can make sure I'm taking care of myself? And the way that I think about it is I personally like to create these little things that I do on a daily or weekly basis that are non-negotiable. These things go in my schedule first, and I don't care what happens. I will do those things. Everything else around me can fall apart, but those things will always get done. And of course, everyone has to figure out what those things are in their life. And I think that if guitar is something you are passionate about as a hobby, I think you should consider making it one of those things, especially if it only takes 15 minutes a day. Because there's really nothing you can do in life for 15 minutes a day that is going to be this life-changing thing in terms of taking care of other people, in terms of solving a financial issue. We can go down the whole list. What can you honestly really do? If you sacrifice your 15 minutes a day of guitar playing, what could you then do in that 15 minutes that's actually going to move the needle forward? Another 15 minutes at a job? How much money is that actually going to generate? Is that going to be a meaningful amount of money on a monthly basis? Another 15 minutes to deal with issues? I don't want to just go on a rant about this, but I think it's really important to understand the time commitment of what we're talking about. Because again, it feels like getting rid of this thing, in this case, guitar, it feels like that this would free up so much time. But have you spent 15 minutes of your day wasteful? Have you sat on your phone for more than 15 minutes a day doing things that don't matter? That's not a judgment. I do it too. But if guitar is making you happy, or if it has the potential to make you happy with a few mindset shifts, which we'll talk about in a second, why not say to yourself, you know what? I noticed that after I eat lunch, I kind of just sit there for 15 minutes, 30 minutes scrolling. How about this? I have a 1 hour lunch break. Right after I finish lunch, takes me about 20 minutes to eat. I then have, look at that, I have 40 minutes now where I'm not required to work, where everyone I love is also at work, so they can't be a need for me, where my kids are also at school. I have this extra 40 minutes. I'm going to scroll for 10 minutes. I'm going to play my guitar for 20 minutes or 15 minutes. And I still have 15 minutes left at the end of it. And I'm going to now make that part of my routine. Find a pocket of 15 minutes somewhere in your day. I find that it's helpful to do it, like I just said, to kind of put it at the end of something else that you are definitely going to do, like eat, like shower, whatever the case may be. Put that 15 minutes right after that other thing and just tack it on as part of that task or that thing you're going to do in life anyway. And then all of a sudden, that time is now taken care of. And what you'll find is that you will start to look forward to that time, and that time will become sacred to you, and it will make the rest of your life better. It just will. So, great. Hopefully, this is actually helping someone. Sometimes I make these videos, and it's like, I feel like I'm just talking into the abyss. So leave a comment below if this is actually being helpful for you. Or better yet, send me a message or an email or something like that. So here's one of the most important things. I probably should have started with this. But one of the most important things is to shift our mindset about what it means to learn guitar or learn anything. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm going to have a sip of coffee if that's okay. And I'll do it off the mic so you don't have to hear me slurping. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I'm guilty of it myself, of course, and how I discuss my teaching and how I market like my lessons and all of that stuff. I'm guilty of it as well, but there's this over obsession with efficiency that we really deal with in the 21st century. Everything is about how we can do things faster, how we can get more bang for our buck, how we can do things that, oh, look, Bonnie's leaving. We turn off the Bonnie cam. Everything is about, how can we do it faster? How can we do it more efficiently? How can we kill two birds with one stone? And, if you're in finance, a lot of this makes sense. If you are in restructuring, if you're a lawyer, all of this makes sense. But until you've spent a significant amount of time with art of some kind, I'm not sure you'll fully understand that art is inefficient. Art is not something that has a perfect, clear trajectory forward, that it's going to be, oh, I learned this, then I learned this, and now I'm good. And of course, I pride myself as being a teacher that is very structured, that has a very diligent plan forward for my students and my community members. I pride myself on that, and I do believe I'm very good at that. But no matter how organized I make lessons, or no matter how organized I explain to you what to do for your own practice, or what songs to work on in what order or what tasks, what skills, no matter how efficient I make your practice schedule or help you make your own practice schedule, the truth of the matter is it's not going to work. There are going to be days when you go, okay, my goal today is to watch this 5-minute lesson and to start working on it. And there's going to be days where you watch that 5-minute video 7 times and you just don't understand it for whatever reason. You're a little bit more tired than usual. Maybe I also didn't explain it perfectly for your brain psychology. Maybe in the back of your mind, something else is going on that's kind of distracting you a tiny bit. It doesn't really matter what it is. But there are going to be these days, and it happens a lot with art, where things just don't line up. They just don't line up. The information isn't sticking. The way you're practicing it's just not working. You know, I this literally happened to me right now before I turned on this camera. I usually practice for 90 minutes minimum. That's my things that are non-negotiable. But I was practicing this morning. I got through an hour and I noticed that the last 10 minutes of that hour, I was hitting this roadblock. I'm working on this song and I'm analyzing it. And for some reason, my brain is just it's not firing right. And this doesn't happen to me very often anymore. This is the first time it's happened in probably months. But for some reason, I know the theory behind this song. I know how to play guitar. I know my chord shapes and how to find the melody. And I'm just going over these 2 bars over and over and over and over, and nothing is like my brain is not processing it right. My hands aren't moving on it the right way. The melody isn't coming out the right way. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. And the earlier you are in your music, the less experienced you are, the more this is going to happen. But the whole thing about art and about learning in art is that that process can't be avoided. There's no way to efficiency your way out of those moments. There's no teacher, there's no lesson, there's nothing that's going to make your journey perfectly smooth, and that's going to stop you from having those stumbling. And sometimes these stumbling blocks will happen for months. I've told this story many times, so I won't retell the whole thing, but there was a period of several years that I was stumbling. And I had already been playing guitar for over 10 years. I already had played professionally. I already had, had students. Had already been through part of music school. Then there was this 2 years where I just was stumbling. I could not figure out what was going on. And so I bring this up because if there's no way for us to avoid these situations perfectly, you can have a great teacher who can help guide you through it, who can help you by saying, maybe think about things this way instead. That's extremely valuable, being able to talk to somebody and have them kind of walk you through certain things. But again, regardless of if you have that person, these moments are still going to happen. So there's only one thing we can do. The only thing we can do is embrace it. And we have to consider these moments success. If you pick up your guitar for 15 minutes and you spend 15 minutes with the guitar in your hands and you're confused the entire time and you have made no quote unquote efficient, meaningful progress in learning that song, but you held that guitar in your hands confused and you tried, that is 100% a successful practice session. And as someone who's been doing this for over 20 years, I understand this intuitively. I understand it because I've been through it, I don't know, thousands of times probably. There are certain moments, sometimes they last 5 minutes, sometimes they last a week. But there are all of these moments that feel like you're not getting anything done, that feel like you're just kind of stumbling in the dark with your eyes closed, and you're bumping over things and you're tripping and you're stubbing your toe and you're just looking for a light switch. There are all of these moments that happen when you learn art. And that whole process of being in the dark is literally part of the process. That feeling, that confusion, that is how you're actually going to get better. There's no way around it. And the problem that I often see is that, again, in this world today, with all of the pressures that we have and all of this efficiency, and we get so frustrated with the idea that we're not making the progress that we think we're supposed to be making. We get so frustrated with the idea that we spent an hour doing something that had no clear, obvious, meaningful movement forward. And then we think something is wrong. Something is wrong with the way we're learning. Something is wrong with who we are as a student. Something is wrong with the material. Something is wrong with, ourself. Who knows? But as humans, we want to solve this issue, but there is no issue. And this is actually, as a teacher, this is one of the most difficult things for me to get through to people with, because there is, I'll just be very honest with you. There is a strong financial incentive as a teacher to just take your students and to make them feel good. And if they feel good, they will keep paying for lessons or paying for their monthly community subscription or whatever, right? And if teaching is your career like it is for me, it's easy to find a trick to make your students feel like they're doing the right thing and that to make them feel good. I'll give you a quick example. If I have a student who is stumbling on something and I know they're on the right path, they just need to kind of continue to stumble through it and eventually it will click. What I can do instead is I can say, okay, well, you know what? Let's how about I teach you this cool sounding scale. Doesn't this sound really cool? Here, play this instead. And then the student gets excited. Oh, I learned this new scale. This sounds really great. Oh, I really did something today. And there's a time and there's a place for that, of course. We don't have to always just hit our head against the wall with one topic until we, bleed to death. Um, so there is a time and place for that. But sometimes sometimes as teachers, we do that because we're afraid that the person is going to leave if we don't give them something that is going to make them feel happy. And a lot of times, those little tactics we use as teachers are just, we're doing it because we're not doing it for the student. We're not doing it because it's going to make them better, because it's going to help them in their life. We're doing it because we want to keep them around. Again, there's a time and place for it. And knowing when to do that versus when to just let the person struggle is a really important part of being a good teacher, in my opinion. Because ultimately, the most valuable thing you could teach someone is how to struggle through the art itself. Because if you can help someone develop the consistency and the patience to just kind of show up every day and enjoy it and embrace the process, if you can convince someone to do that, they can become as talented as anybody. Because because then time no longer becomes the issue. It just becomes, you know, how long they're willing to stick with the whole thing. But the reason I told that kind of revealing story about what it means to teach is because, again, without someone there kind of guiding you through the process, be it a teacher, a mentor, a community of other people, whatever it is. But without having an actual human there with you, the tendency as a student is to get in that moment and then to basically just jump from thing to thing to thing. I think Bonnie's going to come back. Let me turn the Bonnie cam back on. I feel like she's going to jump up there in a second. Let me say that again. I got distracted by Bonnie Tyler. That's the cat, of course, not the singer. But if you're working on guitar by yourself and you start to get to this stumbling block and you're kind of walking around in the dark, you don't know what to do, and life is stressing you out and you feel like you're not making any progress, what usually happens if you stick with the guitar is that, okay, you think to yourself, well, what I'm working on right now is not correct. It's not right for me. So I better just switch it up. I better do something else. I better find a different lesson, a different method. And that's part of the trap. Because what will happen is you'll be doing one thing, struggling through it. If you struggle through it eventually, you will then get the reward of improvement. But instead of struggling through it, you jump to something else. And you get excited for a second because the second that you have that new idea, that new concept, you feel like it's the solution. But then when you start working on that, there's a little bit of progress at the beginning, which feels good. And then you hit that same struggle again. And then you think to yourself, well, maybe this is not the path forward. And so you quit that and look for a new method or a new strategy or a new task to learn. And it just continues over and over and over. And again, it can be very difficult to know what the right thing is without a little bit of guidance, without support. And it's also very difficult to know what you should even be focusing on, because there are certain things that you should probably quit at certain times so that you can focus on other things. But it takes time to develop that idea, to see what's actually important, to see what struggles are worth going through. And I'll just say it again. If you never struggled through something on your guitar playing, then you're not learning. You're not getting better. It's that simple. And that's why I'll probably conclude with this because I've been yapping for a long time. But that's why it's so important to not set goals the way that people often teach you to set goals when it comes to learning or goals in life, right? The way to set your guitar goal is with the time commitment first. That has to be the first goal above anything else. I'm going to pick up this damn thing for 15 minutes. I don't know what's going to happen in that 15 minutes. I might finish that song I'm working on. I might finish that solo I've been working on. I might get better at improvisation. I might learn that chord. I don't know what's going to happen in those 15 minutes, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to show up for all 15 minutes. Again, guys, I'll show it on camera. Timer. It's always here with me when I'm practicing. Set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes. Commit to being with the guitar. And then start to attach joy and positivity and the feeling of success to getting through 15 minutes. No phone out, unless you're using it for tab or whatever, but no texting, no answering phone calls, whatever. Set the goal that if I do this for 15 minutes, I was a success. And if you start to approach guitar in that way, you'll realize that it doesn't have to be stressful. Because you can show up And that's all that really matters. And once you start showing up consistently, and once you start getting excited about the fact that you're showing up, then it's much easier to start to address some of these other concerns in your practice. You show up for 15 minutes 6 days a week, and all of a sudden you realize in week 2, hmm, I noticed that I have this tendency to do this one thing. I wonder if there's a solution to that. Let me ask somebody. Someone says, no, there's no solution to that. You just got to keep going. Oh, okay. I'll keep going then. Because, all right, I'll keep showing up for 15 minutes a day and eventually it'll work itself out. Or they might say, oh, no, actually, what you should do is make sure you arch your fingers a little bit more with that chord because otherwise you're going to mute out the strings. You should probably spend some time working on how high you arch your fingers. And then you go, oh, okay, well, tomorrow in my 15 minutes, I'm just going to look at arching my fingers. It's going to be the whole task. Notice, I didn't say tomorrow in my 15 minutes, I'm going to perfect arching my fingers. No, I said I'm going to look at it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to experiment with it. Is it going to work tomorrow? Probably not. Who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But the goal is just to commit to the 15 minutes with whatever you plan on working on. That's it. And if you can do that, the rest will take care of itself. And if you can attach joy to that process and not worry about the fact that it's taking long, then guitar can be something that's exciting for you again, instead of being something that feels like it's just giving you frustration. And if you have the ability to share it with other people, the process, your thoughts, your good days, your bad days, that just makes it even better. Because if you have a community of supportive people around you, it's harder to quit, which is good. But it's also just nice to see other people on the same path. But anyway, if you've been thinking about quitting guitar, I hope this was helpful for you. Make a commitment to practice 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever you have time for. I say 15 minutes because I think 15 minutes is the bare minimum, honestly, for making progress. So 15 minutes a day, 5 or 6 days a week. Show up for yourself, show up for your guitar. That's the only goal. Don't worry about anything else. And start to give yourself credit and love for getting through that 15 minutes and being present with your instrument for that time. And the rest over time will take care of itself. Of course, I'm here if you're interested in the community, link below. But regardless, you can get better. You can do it. Don't quit.